Shalom, Sister Judy. Brother James, Sister Bernadette, Shalom family, good afternoon. Good to see you all as well. Give some of the other brothers and sisters a chance to chime in, family. I know a lot of us will be on the plantation trying to tune in. Sister Zahara, Shalom. Sister Shonda, good afternoon to you as well, sis. It's good to see everyone and just to enjoy the fellowship amongst the family is a good thing. Just give it a few more minutes, fam, so some of the other brothers and sisters can chime in. If not, they can always catch the rebroadcast. Sister Shakita, shalom to you, sis. And how has everyone's week been so far? Sister Savon. I tell you, family, this was a heck of a week on the plantation, this week, but that's okay. You finally got some cool air. I just was getting my gas this morning and I was just telling the Lord, thank you for allowing me to put gas in my vehicle. Thank you for allowing me to pay my bills. Because a lot of times we don't thank the Lord for what we just see, the things that are small. A lot of people right now can't do that. But I just tell them, just thank you for everything. Sister Nadja, because the Lord, he truly is good, to his people. So I just find myself all the time just saying, thank you, Lord. Thank you for allowing me to gas up my vehicle when I go to grocery. Thank you for allowing me to buy, groceries and, to pay my bills. I just tell them, thank you for that. And I also tell them, thank you for giving me eyes to see, ears to hear, and a mind to understand. Truly, my eyes have been opened, and I thank the Lord for that. That is truly a blessing. Truly, truly a blessing, family. Sister Salika. Yeah. Oh, well, family, I'm not going to prolong the lesson any longer. We're going to go ahead and get into this Proverbs chapter 9. And good afternoon to you, Sister Susanna Millhouse. Good to see you in the chat as well. Um, so Proverbs chapter 9, we're going to pick up at verse 1. It says, wisdom hath builded her house. She hath hewn out her 7 pillars. Shalom, Brother Ty. We're going to go look at these pillars. See, this is why Israel, we have to get a spiritual mindset. Brother Michael Bell. So Revelations chapter 3 and verse 12. It says, him that overcometh, I will make a pillar in the temple of my God. And he shall go no more out, and I will write upon him the name of my God and the name of the city of my God, which is New Jerusalem, which cometh down out of heaven from my God, and I will write upon him my new name. And you see why it's important to get this wisdom, to acquire this mind of God, because he's telling you that I will make you a pillar. And you know that pillar, it holds up the structure. And you know, you just don't always have one pillar, 2 pillars. You have quite a few pillars. And this is what God is telling you, that I want to make you one of those, just like those pillars that hold up the building. This is what your God thinks of you, that you are worthy enough to be hewn out and made one of his pillars, to be a part of his structure, that spiritual temple, that New Jerusalem, which makes up his people. Let's go back to Proverbs 9, and we're going to read verses 2 through 4. It says, she, this is talking about wisdom or the mind of God, have killed her beast. She have mingled or mixed her wine. She have also furnished her table. She have sent forth her maidens. She crieth upon the highest places of the city. Whoso is simple, let him turn in there. As for him that, she says to him. But we're going to stop there. We're going to go to Matthew chapter 22, and we're going to read verses 1 through 4. Matthew chapter 22. Because it said she done killed a beast, got wine, furnished her table. But let's see this. Matthew 22 and verse 5. It says, let me see if this is one. But they made light of it and went their ways, one to his farm, another to his merchandise. And the remnant took his servants and entreated them spitefully, and what? Slew them. No, I wanted Matthew's 22, 1 through 4. I'm sorry, family. Let me go back here. And Jesus answered and spake unto them again by parables, and said, the kingdom of heaven is like a certain king which made a marriage for his son, and sent forth his servants to call them that are bidden to the wedding, and they would not come. See how the maidens are crying just like that, crying out for you to come? But they would not. Again, he sent forth other servants, saying, tell them which are bidden, behold, I have what? Prepared my dinner, my oxen. Then he say that she have killed her beast. She has furnished her table. So I have prepared my dinner, my oxen, my fatlings are what? Killed. And all things are ready. Come unto the marriage. And this is what you're seeing here in verses 2 through 4. This is that call to that marriage of Christ. And this call to this wedding is what? To this remnant here. But guess what? The simple, it says, telling the simple, come, turn in, come to this wedding. But guess what the simple do? They make light of it. And they went their ways. We're going to continue on. Verse 5 and 6 of Proverbs 9. It says, come eat of what? My bread, and drink of the wine which I have mingled. Forsake the foolish and live, and go in the way of what? Understanding. Let us go back to Matthew's 22 and verse 5 through 7. But remember, they made light of it and went their ways. One to his farm and another what? To his merchandise. The remnant took his servants and entreated them what? Spitefully, and what? Slew them. But when the king heard of thereof, he was what? Wroth, and sent forth his armies and destroyed those murderers, and burned up what? That city. And see, wisdom tells me, guess what? Forsake the foolish and what? Live. You see what he did? He destroyed those murderers and burned up their city. And I don't understand why we wouldn't want to be a part of something as great as what God has prepared for us. It says, come and eat of my bread and drink of my wine. But guess what? Even down to today, 2025, family, they don't want to eat this bread. They don't want to partake of what? The body of Christ, and to drink of his wine, his blood. And you know what it calls that? Foolish, because you're going to be destroyed at the end. Verse 7, it says, he that reproveth a scorner getteth to himself what? Shame. And he that rebuketh a wicked man getteth himself a what? Blot. And you know what he's telling you? When you try to correct these people, it'll get you hurt. Look at what they did to Stephen. All for what? Trying to reprove them, trying to bring what? That correction to them. And you can even go back and look at Saul. I call him Saul before he was Paul. And his eyes were closed. They weren't open to the truth. What did he do, family? He did much harm to the saints. Why? For teaching this truth, for bringing reproof, for bringing correction. Verse 8, reprove not a scorner, lest he what? Hate thee. Rebuke a wise man, and he will what? Love thee. Let's go look at John chapter 15 and verse 17. Verse 17 says, these things I commanded you, that you love one another. If the world hate you, there go that hate, y'all. And we won't know what the opposite of hate is. It's love. And it says, you know that it hated me before it hated you. So why are you surprised when you're teaching truth and you're getting hate? Because it hated Christ before it what? Hated you. And when you see them hate this truth, what it tell you? They are mockers. They are not wise. But when you rebuke a wise man, what? He's going to love you. And it says, if ye were of the world would love his what? Own. But because you are not of the world, but I have chosen you out of the world, therefore the world hateth you. Skip down to 25. Now check this out, family. But this cometh to pass, that the word might be fulfilled that is written in their law. They hated me without a cause. They hate you without a cause, family. There's no cause to hate me because I bring correction or reproof or rebuke. because that is trying to help you be able to attend this marriage, to hear this call to Christ, to bring you salvation and deliverance. And you know why they hate your family? Because really you calling out those evil deeds that they're doing, those evil works. They don't want that to be known. They want to continue to look polished and prime and prim. We'll go back to Proverbs 9:9. It says, give instruction to a wise man, and he will yet be wiser. Teach a just man, and he will what? Increase in learning. You know why? Because a wise man wants to be wiser. He's not going to hate you like the scorner or that mocker. Because what? A just or a righteous man wants to be taught. They hear the conclusion of the whole matter. They say to themselves, let me increase in this learning so that I can get the mind of God, so that I can become a God like God. Now let's go to Ecclesiastes chapter 7. And verse 19, it says, wisdom strengtheneth the wise what more? Did not he just tell you, if you give instruction to a wise man, he will what? Be wiser. It says, wisdom strengtheneth the wise more than 10 mighty men which are in the city. See, mighty men in the city, they're all bronze, but no brains. And unfortunately, that's what we see amongst Israel. Even in this walk, they like the outer, but it's that inner that needs the wisdom. This is where you need to acquire the mind of your God. Samson, all bronze, but no brains. So you know what? At the end, guess what he had to do after his eyes was put up? He had to go back to the one that had wisdom, which was God, and ask for what? Their strength one more time. But if he would have listened to his parents the first time and not dealt with them other nations, he wouldn't have been in that spot. Okay, Proverbs 9 and 10. It says, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, and the knowledge of the holy is what? Understanding. Let's go to Job chapter 28 and 28. It says, and unto man he said, behold, the fear of the Lord, that is wisdom. And to depart from evil, that is understanding. Why? Because if I'm doing those things that are evil, have no understanding, that's going to get me hurt. And we're going to go to Malachi chapter 1, and let's take a look at verse 6. It says, a son honoreth his father, and a servant his master. If then I be a father, this is God talking, where is my honor? Where is my respect? And if I be a master, where is my fear? Just like you fear Mr. Belvedere on the job, but you don't fear your God. It says, if I be a master, where is my fear, saith the Lord of hosts, unto you, O priest, O law keepers, that what despise my name. And it seemed like to me, they despise his name even today. Because when you're trying to tell them, love God, love your neighbor, that those are the commandments. Oh, they go nuts. And say, and you say, wherein have we despised your name? They asking a question they already know the answer to. Because when you keep reading down, you see the things that they were doing. So these priests hated God in Malachi. Just like we was reading here in verse 8, didn't it tell us, reprove not a scorn unless he would hate thee? Why? Because God brought that correction to y'all. Y'all hated him. You didn't want to walk in love. But that's okay. He got rid of the Levitical priesthood. The Lord said, I am a great king. Family, he said, my name is dreadful among the heathen. Who you think you dealing with? You're going to learn to respect, fear, and honor me. You're going to learn to love me. Verse 11, back in Proverbs 9, it says, for by me thy days shall be multiplied, and the years of thy life shall be increased. Why? Why is that? Because I'm going to fear God, which is what? The beginning of wisdom. And with that fear, you know what you're going to do? You're going to obey him. Because why? He can destroy both body and soul. I'm going to go to verse 12. It says, if thou be wise, thou shalt be wise, what? For thyself. But if thou scornest, thou shalt what? Bear it alone. We're going to go to Romans 3 and 3. Verse 3 says, for what? If some did not believe, shall their unbelief make the faith of God without effect? God forbid. Yea, let God be true, but every man a liar, as it is written, that thou mightest be justified in thy sayings, and mightest overcome when thou art judged. You see, that's why, like he says, but if you would be wise, you're going to be wise for yourself. But if you scorn, you're going to bear that alone. Because when you teach and trying to give Israel this understanding, some of them think that because you don't believe, or if they don't believe, or if they start to mock you, call you a liar and a false teacher, they don't come to Christ or come to this truth, they think it's hurting you. No, that's hurting you. You hurting yourself. You the only one going to feel that pain, not me. Verse 13, it says, a foolish woman is clamorous. She is simple and what? Knoweth nothing. Let's go to Ephesians chapter 4 and verse 31. It said, let all bitterness and wrath and anger and clamor, that clamor, you like to stir up mess, and what evil speaking be put away from you with all malice. But be ye kind one to another, tenderhearted, forgiving one another, even as God hath, for Christ's sake, forgiven you. But not the foolish woman. These other nations, these other people that we like to listen to. And if you got clamor going on, guess what? There's no peace. But he tells us, blessed are the peacemakers, because we shall be called what? The children of God. We not out there starting mess with nobody. And he says that this foolish woman is what? Simple. She knows nothing. Look at the nation that we are in right here. We'll just say, for an example, the United States. They always talking to what? Hurt folks. That's what they do. And what they said, she says she is simple, she's clamorous. And with their talk, what they say, we gonna cut stamps, Social Security benefits, and your 401ks, we taking that too. We don't care if you're disabled. We definitely don't care about the elderly or the veterans. But that's all that bitterness, that wrath, that anger, and that clamor, that evil speaking. But we as a nation, Israel, we don't operate like that. We don't do those things. But just sit and listen what comes out of their mouths, family. And it says that she is simple. That means she is stupid and knoweth nothing. They think they're so smart that you won't pay the farmer nothing. Does not the farmer provide the food for the nation to eat, family? But these people say, to hell with the farmer. We may pay him 1 cent a pound for whatever he's producing. But man, this man over here can hit a golf ball in that little old hole. We'll pay him a $30 million contract. You see how messed up that mindset is? And you think I'm going to leave my God to follow that mindset? To follow somebody that is simple, clamorous, that is foolish? No. Mm-mm. And look, it says in verse 14, she sitteth at the door of her house on a seat in the high places of the city, to call passengers who go right on their ways. See, the thing is, they see you when you're walking right. And that's why they call to you, because you're walking right and they know it. But let me go to Revelations chapter 17. In verse 1 and 2, it says, and there came one of the 7 angels, which had the 7 vials, and talked with me, saying unto me, come hither, and I will show unto you the judgment of the great whore that sitteth among the waters, or upon the waters. Then she sit at the door of her house on a high seat, to call passengers who go on their right ways. But this is what, whom those kings of the earth have committed fornication, and the inhabitants of the earth have been made drunk with the wine of her fornication. And you can go all the way back to the book of Kings and Chronicles and look at the mindset of those kings that they had, that trusted in these other nations' mindset instead of the mindset of our God. They drunk of that wine even back then, because we were supposed to be a light among the nations. They're supposed to look and say, well, my God, those are some wise and understanding people. But those other nations didn't want that for you, so you ran after them. Verse 16 says, whoso is simple, let him turn in there And as for him that wanteth understanding, she saith to him. But we're going to look at this right here first. It says, whoso is simple, let him turn in thither. See, I don't want to hear nothing from the simple, from the clampers. Because what did Jesus tell us when they called to you? Jesus said, my sheep hear what? My voice. And a stranger they would not what? Follow. But he says, but whoso is simple, you go ahead and turn in there. But as for us who want understanding, let's go to Romans chapter 8. In verse 31. 30 and 31, it says, moreover, whom he did predestinate, them he what also called. So we won't be following or hearing this call like those passengers who go out of their way to go over there. And to whom he called, them he also what justified, and whom he justified, them also what he glorified. What shall we say to these things, family? If God be for us, who can be against us? You don't have to be afraid for standing 10 toes on what you believe. The only thing, family, you should be afraid of is being separated from your God. Because at that point, you open season. So stay on the right path, follow your God, acquire his mindset, learn to love him, learn to love your brothers and sisters. But they say, oh, that's teaching evil. That right there. My God. Verse 17 says, stolen waters are sweet. This is what she say. Stolen waters are sweet, and bread eaten in secret is pleasant. But what did wisdom tell us? Didn't it tell us in the prior chapters to drink out water out of our own cistern? The Lord has given us this book to consume, to acquire his mindset. But let's go to John 18, because you're talking about stolen waters are sweet. Let's go to John 18, verses 19 through 21. And the high priest then asked Jesus of his disciples and his doctrine. And Jesus answered him, I spake openly to the world. I ever taught in the synagogue and in the temple where the Jews also resort. In secret, I have said nothing. Why askest thou me? Ask them that what heard me, what I have said unto them. Behold, they know what I said. See, Jesus said, I talk openly. I don't have nothing to hide. I'm not out here trying to deceive. You know what, family? He shared his mindset. He was dispensing his wisdom. But guess what over here? This one tell you that them stolen waters are sweet and that bread eaten in secret is pleasant. You know why? Because they try to deceive you. That's why. But not Christ. He didn't have no guile in his mouth. There was no deception there. He said, I talk openly. Go ask them that heard me. Verse 18. But he knoweth not that the dead are there, and that her guests are in the depths of hell. Let's go to Matthew 22. Because this is not a game, family. Matthew 22 and verse 9 through 13 says, go you therefore into the highways, and as many as you shall find, bid to what? The marriage. Wasn't that we was talking about that here in chapter 9? in verses 2 all the way down, inviting you to this wedding. So those servants went out into the highways and gathered together all as many as they found, both bad and good, and the wedding was furnished with guests. And when the king came in to see the guests, he saw there a man which had not a wedding garment. And we're going to look at that garment in a minute. And he said unto him, Friend, how camest thou in hither not having a wedding garment? And he was speechless. He was speechless. And the king, this is what the king said to his servants: bind him hand and foot and take him away and cast him into outer darkness, and there shall be what? Weeping and gnashing of teeth. Let's go to Revelations chapter 19. And we're going to look at verse 7 and 8. Because he said that this is where the dead go. They don't know that the dead are there in that her guest. Now, who guest you want to be, family? You want to be a guest to this foolish nation? Or do you want to be a guest at this marriage? At this feast, this marriage feast with Christ? I choose Christ 100% all day. It says, verses 7 through 8, let us be glad and rejoice and give honor to him, for the marriage of the Lamb is come, and his wife have made herself what? Ready. And to her was granted that she should be arrayed in what? Fine linen, clean and white. Oh, wasn't that what we was? Let's go back to Matthew 22, because somebody was there with the wrong garments on. For the fine linen is the righteousness of the saints. Those are your wedding garments, family. Righteous, doing right by your God, doing right by your brothers and sisters. Now let's go to Isaiah 61 and 10. We got to learn to stop being carnal. We see garments and, ooh, I got my garment on. He just told you that righteousness. Let's go to 61 and 10 of Isaiah. I will greatly rejoice in the Lord. My soul shall be joyful in my God, for he hath clothed me with the garments of salvation. He hath covered me with what? The robe of righteousness. And all those robes and garments that you saw all the way back there with the Levitical priesthood and all that the kings used to wear. This is what Christ was trying to show you the whole time. Be clothed with garments of salvation and wearing that robe of righteousness. As a bridegroom decketh himself with ornaments, and a bride adorneth herself with jewels. We are being called to, family, this wedding, to this marriage. But if we don't get this love thing down, I tell you, because a lot of people think that we can dress to impress God with all this here, but he's looking on inside. That's what he's looking at. He's looking at this mindset. But guess what? He's going to bind you hand and foot, and you're going to be out of there. I don't want to be no parts to that. I'm going to continue to love my God, and I'm going to continue to love my brothers and sisters, because this is what Christ commanded us to do. See, we'll do that physical stuff all day long. We'll put on the mitre, we'll put on the fringes, we'll do all of that. But when you start teaching love and start practicing love, you start walking like Christ walked, expect all hell to break loose on your family. Because teaching love in this day and hour, it sounds crazy. It sounds like you off your rocker. But I tell you, it ain't gonna get better. It's gonna get worse. You know why? Because our people don't believe. And you know darn sure the other nations don't believe. Just turn on the news. Look at the chaos. Look at the crime. Where y'all think that come from? Because all the United States, just about everybody go to somebody's church. But there's a key ingredient missing. All right, family, I'm going to stop right there. I hope you all got some understanding. And as always, long live our King, Jesus. And Lord's willing, family, I will see you in the next lesson of Proverbs chapter 10. Shalom.